Chapter 42-21. Hearing this, the eyes of the elder in the group flashed. He was a little surprised. The Green Wolf Mercenary Group. That's a notorious mercenary group. Their battle prowess is also very shocking. Usually, people who fall into their hands can't escape at all. The meaning behind his words was to ask, how did those two people escape with you? The two middle-aged men looked at each other and said, we didn't escape at all. That person saved us, not to escape, but to destroy the Green Wolf Mercenary Group and save us. Although it was indeed a little unbelievable, it had happened before their eyes. They had seen with their own eyes that the mercenary group had been killed by those two people. Not a single one was left alive. Brother Wei, now that there are only a few of us left, we were wondering if we could join your group. Go out with you? The middle-aged man asked. Ha ha ha, of course, there's no problem. You can follow our group. However, we probably won't go out yet. We'll only leave this place after a few days. That's not a problem. The two middle-aged men said. Following their group, they finally relaxed. On the other side, Du Fan and Yi Feifei rushed into the forest. After reaching a place, Du Fan stopped and looked at Yi Feifei's feet. What's wrong, big brother Du? Yi Feifei asked, puzzled. She followed his gaze and looked at her feet. Let me add something for you. Increase the strength of your training. Du Fan said and took out several iron plates from his space. He gestured to her and said, sit down, I'll tie them up for you. Iron plates. You want to tie these to my feet? Yi Feifei asked as she found a place to sit down. This is the iron plate that I used in the past. Master also used this to train us in the past. Du Fan helped to tie the iron plates close to her feet, and then tied a layer of cloth around them. Don't take these off. Even if you're sleeping, you have to wear them. Du Fan said with a smile. Stand up and raise your feet to take a look. Oh. Yi Feifei responded. When she stood up, she felt a weight on her feet and her body couldn't help but stabilize. She quickly steadied herself and realized that her feet were really heavy. It's very heavy, big brother Du. Yi Feifei lifted his leg and asked, it must be 7 or 8 pounds each, right? 10 caddies per leg. Both feet weigh 20 jin, so I've added 20 jin of weight to your feet. Du Fan's voice grew louder as he spoke, train well. That's how we've been through it. Hearing his words, Yi Feifei replied, yes, I will. She tried to lift her leg again. As expected, it was still very heavy. She was even certain that she would not be able to keep up with Du Fan if she were to walk with something tied to her leg. Every time she lifted her leg, it would be a torture. On this side, the training continued. On the other side, Fengzhou and the other two were also preparing to continue to the forest. Behind them, a group of ferocious beasts followed. Those ferocious beasts did not dare to come forward, but they did not want to leave. They seemed to be waiting for an opportunity. When Wang Yu fell behind, they would rush forward and drag him away. Because there was a group of ferocious beasts behind them, Wang Yu, who obviously could not keep up with Fengzhou and the other two, had to try his best to increase his speed and follow them closely. But in this way, he would be particularly tired, especially when his physical strength was consumed. Chapter 42-22. Listening to Wang Yu's words, Fengzhou smiled and glanced back, saying, okay, let's take a rest. She took out the map and looked at it, saying, there is a water source in front of us. Let's go there to rest. Okay. Wang Yu answered, gritting his teeth and following them. When they came to the water source in front, they saw a mountain stream flowing from top to bottom. The water was not big, but it was very clear. So, Fengzhou went forward to wash his face, and sat on the stone on the side with Leng Shuang to rest. After washing his face, Wang Yu took out a gourd-shaped magic instrument and filled it with water. He looked at Feng Zhou and Leng Shuang, saying, "Well, Dr. Gui, can I soak my feet here?" "Okay." Feng Zhou nodded and said with a smile, "There is no one around, and the water source is running water. The stream in the forest is very cold. What's wrong with soaking your feet and relaxing?" She said to Leng Shuang, "We have been walking for so long. Let's soak for a while, shall we?" "Master, soak." "I don't need it," Leng Shuang said, staring at the ferocious beasts lying in the grass not far away, in case they suddenly pounced on them. "Okay." Feng Zhou answered, took off his boots and socks, and soaked his feet in the stream. The cold stream soaked his feet, and he felt comfortable all over. Wang Yu found a place to sit down under Feng Zhou. He carefully took off his boots and socks, only to see that the socks had been stained with blood. His feet were bloody and abraded, which looked a little shocking at this time. Feng Zhou glanced at him, frowned, and said, "How did your feet get hurt like this? Soak your feet and wash them. Apply medicine on them before you go." It seemed that he was really a young master. Even if he had experience before, he still couldn't stand walking in the forest for a long time. Wang Yu soaked for a while to ease the pain in her feet. Then she wiped the water and took out the medicine to apply. However, even if it was simply bandaged, it would still hurt when touched. He wiped his sweat and said, "Sit down for a while. I'm going to hunt a vicious beast for dinner." As he spoke, he was about to get up, but Feng Zhou stopped him. "Sit down." Feng Zhou said, "We're not eating barbecue today. Besides, there's still meat in the space. You should rest first. I'll teach you a set of footwork later. You can use it together with your spiritual power so that it won't be so strenuous." As she spoke, her palm moved and a spirit fruit flew out from her hand. "For you to eat." Taking the spiritual fruit, Wang Yu was a little surprised and just said to her, "Thank you." Feng Zhou took out 2 more spiritual fruits and handed one to Leng Shuang. After taking a rest, Feng Zhou stood up and said, "Watch carefully." She practiced the footwork twice in front of him and then asked, "Did you see it clearly?" Looking at the unpredictable footwork, Wang Yu was a little excited and quickly nodded. "Yes, I saw it clearly. I'll show you." Then he stood up and walked according to her footwork. His speed gradually increased from slow to fast. "Good. You're talented." Feng Zhou chuckled and said, "You can practice by yourself. You won't have blisters on your feet if you use this footwork." "Okay." Wang Yu responded and practiced over and over again in the open space. He practiced until it was dark and then he stopped because he heard voices coming toward them. Chapter 42-23. Feng Zhou smiled and said, "Don't worry, they won't come close. You forgot that there are more than a dozen ferocious beasts in the grass and trees. Those ferocious beasts had been following them all the way. They were unwilling to leave, but they didn't dare to come forward. However, if other people came close, those ferocious beasts would rush over instead of just following them." Sure enough, as soon as her voice fell, there was a scream not far away. "No! There are ferocious beasts. Go back. Ow!" As soon as the exclamation fell, the roars of the beasts could be heard, and rustling sounds could be heard from the bushes and trees. As for the 3 people who were sitting by the water source, because of the cover of the grass that was half a person's height, no one noticed them. Their attention was all on the beasts. Wang Yu saw that half of those ferocious beasts chased out, and the other half were still lying in the grass, staring at them. She said, "It seems that they are young people. I don't know if they can avoid them. You can go and have a look." Feng Zhou said, wiped the water off his feet, put on his boots, and said, "Try your footwork by the way." Hearing this, Wang Yu nodded without thinking, "Well, I'll go and have a look." Then she went in the direction of the sound. As soon as she rushed out, those ferocious beasts no longer squatted, but jumped up and chased after her with a roar. Looking at this scene, Ling Shuang's eyes flashed with a strange color, and he said, "Master, he is leading those ferocious beasts to them. More than a dozen powerful ferocious beasts. Even a powerful family would have a hard time fighting against them." Feng Zhou smiled, "It doesn't matter. How can people who come out to experience not encounter ferocious beasts? It's just a dozen ferocious beasts. It should be enough for a family to deal with them." As soon as her voice fell, she jumped up a tree and said, "Let's go. Let's go and have a look." Two figures rose up and went to the place where the sound was chaotic. After a few leaps, they came to a tree and watched the scene of the chaotic battle. More than a dozen ferocious beasts were fighting with the family. Among them, 6 or 7 ferocious beasts were targeting Wang Yu, and their attacks were only directed at Wang Yu. It seemed that they had an incomprehensible obsession with this prey that had followed them all the way. Because she fought 6 or 7 ferocious beasts alone, Wang Yu was soon wounded. Blood soaked her robe, and the more she fought, the braver she became. The strength of that clan was beyond Feng Zhou's expectations. Several ferocious beasts were killed. Aside from some who were injured, no one died because of the ferocious beasts. Perhaps it was because a few ferocious beasts had died and the other ferocious beasts were unable to gain the upper hand. After a short battle, the remaining 7 or 8 ferocious beasts quickly fled. At this time, Wang Yu was so tired that he was panting. He supported his shaking body with the sword in his hand until he steadied himself and leaned against the tree to rest. Then he looked up at the family member. "Who are you? Why are you here?" A middle-aged man asked in a calm voice and stared at him unkindly. "You led those ferocious beasts here." Wang Yu took a moment to calm down and said, "I was resting at the water source in front. After hearing the noise, I came to help. I didn't lead the ferocious beasts here. They were lurking around." Chapter 42-24. Feng Zhou, who was in the tree, could not help but smile when he heard this. He thought to himself, Wang Yu is not an inflexible person. He knows what to say on what occasion. Perhaps the middle-aged man felt that what he said made sense, but his expression relaxed a little. Then, he sized him up from head to toe and said, "You're a rogue cultivator? Didn't you follow the team? Why are you alone?" Wang Yu was about to speak when he heard Feng Zhou's voice in his mind. "Find a way to follow them. These people are very strong. If you follow their team, you will be fine in this forest. Ling Shuang and I will go first to explore inside." Listening to the words in his mind, Wang Yu pursed his lips slightly. He knew that he was not as strong as them and had been holding them back. So, he cupped his hands and bowed to the middle-aged man, saying, "I'm Wang Yu, the young master of the Wang family in Cyan Demon City. I was separated from my team because of the ferocious beast. Can I go with you?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and looked him up and down suspiciously. "You are Wang Yu, the young master of the Wang family, one of the 8 families in Cyan Demon City?" "That playboy." Hearing the words, playboy, Wang Yu was a little embarrassed and said, "Yes, that's me." The middle-aged man and an old man next to him looked at each other and then smiled, saying, "Cyan Demon City is the closest city to Cyan Demon Forest. I also know some news about the 8 families there. I have always heard that Wang Yu is a playboy. However, judging from your fighting capacity, you don't seem to be a playboy. It seems that the rumor is wrong." Feng Zhou, who was in the tree, watched them talk for a while. Perhaps he thought that Wang Yu was a playboy and had shown extraordinary fighting capacity before, so he wanted to make friends with him. Seeing this, Fengjiu transmitted a voice message, Ling Shuang and I will go first. The purpose of this trip is the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit. I don't know when we can find it. If we are destined to meet again, maybe we will meet again. Take care of yourself. After that, he took Ling Shuang to the depths of the forest. The two of them moved like the wind, and only the leaves rustled as if they were being brushed by the wind. When Wang Yu looked up, the two figures had disappeared. She sighed in her heart and collected her thoughts. She thought to herself, I should have known that the purpose of their trip is the nine-tailed fox spirit. They will not always take me to the depths. Now that there is a suitable opportunity, it is normal for them to leave me behind. If I want to blame someone, I can only blame myself for not being strong enough and dragging them down. Wang Yu, what are you looking at? The middle-aged man looked in the direction he was looking but saw nothing. No, I'm just thinking that there are so many ferocious beasts here that I can't relax for even a moment. Wang Yu shook her head and said. Hearing this, the middle-aged man laughed. Indeed, there are quite a lot of ferocious beasts here. However, this is only the periphery. If we go deeper, it won't be a matter of how many ferocious beasts there are. It will be a matter of how strong the ferocious beasts are. Come. Since you're with us, let me introduce you to everyone. The middle-aged man introduced his people to Wang Yu. Chapter 42-25. Fengjiu smiled and said, Don't worry. Nothing will happen. You have seen the fighting capacity of that family. They are very strong. Didn't you notice that there is another one? There is a young woman in that family. Both of them are aristocratic families. They have seen Wang Yu's fighting capacity. The middle-aged man is not stupid. He will not miss such an opportunity to make friends with her. With that, she pursed her lips and smiled, saying, Maybe Wang Yu can bring a fiancé back after returning from here. This kind of marriage between aristocratic families has always been the most common. Hearing that, Ling Shuang nodded, pretending to understand. She just thought that it might not be safe for Wang Yu to be with those people. She didn't expect that her master would think about it. Now that he heard her say this, he felt relieved and threw this matter to the back of his mind. Master, Du Fan and Feifei's journey is not fast. Maybe they haven't entered the inner area yet. Well, Feifei's strength is much worse than yours. It is impossible for her to reach the same level as you. However, she will have her own strengths. I believe that after Du Fan's training, she can be independent in the future. Fengjiu said, and the red figure shuttled through the forest. Around them, sometimes there were ferocious beasts roaring and pouncing on them when they found them. However, they were stepped on by force and missed. After chasing for a while, they stopped. Here, there were some places where ferocious beasts with low ranks did not dare to approach. Therefore, when they found that their prey had left their range of activity, they gave up the idea of killing them. Without Wang Yu following them, they sped up. Their goal was the depths of the Cyan Demon Forest. Therefore, they didn't stop all the way, but went deeper. In the evening of the third day, Fengjiu, who was in front of them, saw a stream and a flat land in front of them. She stopped and took out the map to check it. Ling Shuang, who was behind her, also stopped. She stood aside and paid attention to the surrounding movements. She only found that this place was very quiet. There were no roars of ferocious beasts and even fewer ferocious beasts. Moreover, the road they had walked through was a forest. However, in front of them, there was only a stream a few meters wide. Looking around, there were no trees. Although they didn't see any ferocious beasts, with their years of experience, this place was no less dangerous than the roads they had walked through before. Master, have we reached the inner area? Ling Shuang asked. Yes, this stream separates the inner and outer regions. After this stream, you'll reach the inner region. Fengjiu glanced at the markings on the map in her hand, then looked at the stream ahead and said, "There is a kind of man-eating four-legged beast in this stream. It crawls quickly, has strong attack power, and strong defense power. This area is the range of activity of the man-eating four-legged beast, so other beasts rarely come here." "Master, is it that one?" Ling Shuang pointed to the huge ferocious beast lying in the mud in front of them. Although this was a flat land, there were fewer weeds. Instead, there was more sand. The mud-colored four-legged beast was lying in the sand as a cover. If one didn't look carefully, it would be difficult to notice the four-legged beast. Chapter 42-26. Just as the two of them were talking, the surrounding soil seemed to loosen, and four-legged beasts crawled out of the soil. They stared at Fengjiu and Ling Shuang, who were not far away. Suddenly, they opened their mouths and howled. The surrounding four-legged beasts immediately leaped out and pounced on the two of them. The two of them tapped their toes and soared into the air. They watched as the four-legged beasts below all rushed out. There were about 200 to 300 of them. At this time, they were waving their tails and crawling on the ground. Some crawled to the stream, while others howled and looked up at the two people in the air. Hiss! Suddenly, a sharp cry came from the sky. The two of them looked in the direction of the sound and saw a flock of giant bald eagles swooping down on them. "Go!" Fengjiu shouted and soared into the air. However, the giant bald eagles were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they blocked their path and trapped them in the stream. Hiss! The giant bald eagles howled and flashed their sharp claws at the two of them. Their long red beaks were as sharp as knives pecked at them. With a flap of their wings, wind blades brushed past their faces. The attacks came wave after wave, not giving them any time to catch their breath. "Scram!" Fengjiu shouted coldly. With a flick of his sleeve and a wave of his hand, a flame came out of his hand and burned the surrounding area. Whoosh! Hiss! The flames came out with an ancient pressure. The few bald eagles that were quick to escape flapped their wings and fled in panic. Those that were slow to escape had their feathers set on fire by the flames. For a moment, sharp screeches sounded in the surroundings. As the flames burned, a foul smell spread in the air. Perhaps sensing the ancient aura, the originally restless four-legged beasts howled and attempted to bury their bodies under the soil. Ling Shuang followed beside Fengjiu and watched as the giant bald eagles screamed and dove into the stream below. However, the four-legged beasts in the water opened their mouths and swallowed them. Fengjiu glanced down and saw that the bald eagles were either dead or running away, so he didn't pay any more attention to them. Instead, he said to Ling Shuang, "Let's go." As soon as he finished speaking, he walked towards the opposite stream. Ling Shuang looked back at the four-legged beasts and followed behind Fengjiu. Her master's ancient pressure had been restrained the entire way. If it was released, no ferocious beasts would dare to take a step closer to her. Seeing her master's red clothes fluttering in front of her, her eyes gradually softened. From the moment she followed her master, she had seen her master become stronger step by step. She had seen her master go through countless trials and become the master of heaven and earth. Although her master's strength had not recovered to its peak, with her master's talent, she believed that it would not be long before she regained her former strength. She might even be more powerful than before. 3 months later, in the morning, Fengjiu stood at the peak of a mountain and looked at the surrounding trees and layers of mountains. Her mood was somewhat anxious and heavy. Chapter 42-27. In fact, she didn't even see or feel the aura or traces of the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. She was worried that there would be no news if she continued to search here. She was worried about her children. She missed them. She had been away from home for so long. How old were they now? Would they still recognize her when she returned? If she could not help them find suitable contracted beasts, if she could not help them change their fates, if something happened to them before then, once the worry in her heart surged, it could not be stopped. This kind of worry increased day by day, and it also made her more anxious day by day. Her entire being was occupied by this kind of worry, and the smile on her face became fewer and fewer. Her entire body emitted a cold aura that made people unable to approach her. Ling Shuang stood behind her and looked at her. She was shrouded in a cold aura as she looked into the distance without saying a word. She knew that her master was thinking about the two young masters and the Yama Lord. She also knew that her master was worried about not being able to help the two young masters find ancient mythical beasts as contracted beasts. However, even though she knew, she could not help her. Ancient mythical beasts were not ordinary beasts. They could only be found by chance. Even if they were anxious, there was no way to make the ancient mythical beasts appear. "Master, you should rest today. I'll go take a walk in the forest," Ling Shuang said. "No need, in a while." Before she could finish her sentence, her eyes were attracted by a white figure that flitted past a mountain peak in the distance. "What's that?" she muttered, and almost without thinking, she raised her chi and flew towards the mountain peak. Her speed was as fast as the speed of light, and Ling Shuang could not react in time. "Master!" Ling Shuang only saw a white figure flitting past the mountainside in the distance. She did not see what the white figure was. Seeing her master raise her chi and fly in that direction, she quickly chased after her. Fengjiu's gaze was fixed on the white figure, and her divine sense was also locked onto the white figure. However, the white figure was moving extremely fast, and even with her speed, she could not catch up to it. One human and one beast were chasing each other from a distance of several hundred meters. When Fengjiu saw the white figure in front of her suddenly stop and turn around to look at her, her eyes lit up with ecstasy. Ancient nine-tailed fox spirit. Its speed was so fast that she could only see a flash of white. However, when it stopped, those 9 snow-white tails swayed behind it. Its body was so small, and its pair of dark blue eyes matched with its snow-white fur. It was so beautiful that she could recognize it at a glance. This was the 9-tailed spirit fox that old man Wang had drawn. The ancient 9-tailed spirit fox turned around to look at Fengjiu, who was following closely behind it. It suddenly raised its head and let out a squeak. The squeak was soft, but just as the squeak fell, there was a commotion in the forest, as if all the beasts were rushing towards them. After the squeak, the ancient 9-tailed spirit fox leaped and continued to fly towards the mountain peak, its white figure weaving through the trees. Fengjiu chased after it closely. However, there were suddenly countless beasts in the mountains that had not appeared before. They blocked her path and helped the ancient 9-tailed spirit fox escape. Chapter 42-28. Fengjiu snorted coldly and released all the pressure from her body. Those originally restless beasts, after feeling the ancient pressure, howled and lay down one by one. She was blocked by the beasts for a moment, and when she looked again, there was no trace of the 9-tailed fox. Ling Shuang caught up with her and saw her looking around. He asked, "Master, what was that?" It was the 9-tailed fox. The ancient 9-tailed fox, it finally appeared. Fengjiu's eyes could not hide his excitement and annoyance. He said, "It was just in front of me, but I was blocked by the beasts and let it escape. If I was faster, perhaps it would not have escaped." Hearing this, Ling Shuang said, "Since it appeared, it must be in this area. Master, let's continue looking. We will definitely find it. And let's split up and search in this direction." You inform Du Fan and the others to find out where they are and ask them to come here. Fengjiu said and rushed forward. Okay. Ling Shuang replied and took out his communication jade tablet to inform Du Fan and the others. At this time, Du Fan and Yi Feifei were somewhere in the depths of the forest. They looked at the movements in the forest in surprise and found that the turbulence only lasted for a while and then calmed down. Yi Feifei could not help but ask, Big Brother Du, what happened just now? It seemed that all the beasts were running in the same direction, but now they stopped. Du Fan looked into the depths of the forest and said, I think something attracted them. As he spoke, he seemed to have sensed something. He took out a glowing communication jade tablet from the space. After he heard the news from the jade tablet, he smiled. Master and Ling Shuang found traces of the nine-tailed fox and asked us to hurry over and help find it. They had been here for a few months and finally there was news of the ancient nine-tailed fox. Great! Let's go! Yi Feifei's eyes were full of surprise, and the joy on her face could not be concealed. Let me check the map and see how far we are from them. Du Fan said and took out the map to check. At this time, Yi Feifei looked in one direction and calmed down to listen. She heard the roar of beasts and screams, and could not help but say, Big Brother Du, there seems to be someone there. I heard the sound. Du Fan looked in the direction she pointed and released his divine awareness. After a while, he took it back and said in surprise, It's Wang Yu and her family's people. How did they come to the inner area? He knew that Wang Yu was abandoned by Ling Shuang. At that time, he heard from Ling Shuang that she left Wang Yu with a family in the periphery. He thought that after a few months, that family should have left the Cyan Demon Forest. Even if they hadn't left, they shouldn't have appeared in the inner area. Unexpectedly, with a sweep of his divine awareness, he unexpectedly caught a glimpse of a familiar figure. It was Wang Yu. Wang Yu. Yi Feifei could not help but be surprised. Are they in trouble? Let's go. Let's go and have a look. Du Fan said, put away the map and rushed in that direction. Chapter 42-29. When we fight our way out, Wang Yu, you take them and leave quickly. You must escape. The middle-aged man shouted in a deep voice. His body was scarred, and his clothes were stained with blood. His arm was scratched by a ferocious beast, and the wound was so deep that the bone could be seen. Even the middle-aged man was seriously injured, not to mention the others. There were only 30 people left in their group, and all of them were injured. Their clothes were stained with blood, and they were in a sorry state. Even so, none of them stepped back. On the contrary, those older and stronger ones all formed a protective circle, protecting the younger members of the family in the middle, and Wang Yu was also in their protection. These ferocious beasts suddenly went crazy, and their combat effectiveness is stronger than before. It's not just one or two of them, but a group. If we fight for a long time, we will all die here. Now, we can only find a way to fight our way out for the younger generation of the family. The old man said in a deep voice, and stepped forward to attack the ferocious beasts. As soon as the battle started, the ferocious beasts on the other side also growled. More than a dozen ferocious beasts jumped forward to attack, and more than a dozen stayed around and did not move, but looked at them covetously. It seemed that if anyone dared to escape from their hunting circle, they would pounce on him and tear him to pieces. Ah! A woman fell out of the defensive circle because of pushing and dodging. A ferocious beast immediately roared and rushed forward, and its sharp claws scratched at her neck. Be careful! Wang Yu saw it and exclaimed. He had no time to help her up or even attack, so he could only rush forward to resist the ferocious beast's attack. Hiss! Ah! The sharp claws scratched down and left several bloody marks on Wang Yu's back. The strength of the claw was not light. It not only tore his defensive clothes, but also tore his clothes and flesh. Several deep bloody marks gushed out, and blood quickly dyed his back red. He screamed, and cold sweat oozed from his forehead. He wanted to straighten up, but he could not stand at all. Wang Yu! Wang Yu! Hurry up! Save them! Several cries of alarm rang out. They wanted to go forward and rescue the two people who were lying on the ground, but no one had the time to even get close to them. They were tightly entangled by the fierce beasts, and wave after wave of attacks did not give them a chance to rescue the two people. What was more, there were ferocious beasts staring at them. No one could get close to Wang Yu and Qin Haodong. Because when they attacked and dodged, they were already out of the defensive circle. At this time, they were surrounded by those ferocious beasts and could not be saved. Wang Yu, how are you? Get up. The woman who was protected by Wang Yu on the ground couldn't help but have red eyes. She wanted to help him up, but she was pressed down by him and couldn't move at all. The pain in his back caused his body to tremble as if his body no longer belonged to him. Wang Yu clenched his teeth and endured the pain to stand up. However, a ferocious beast roared and opened its mouth to bite the two of them. Seeing this, he instinctively opened his arms to protect the woman beneath him. He wanted to use his body to protect her. Seeing this, the woman couldn't help but cry, Wang Yu, get up, get up. Roar. Phew. Chapter 42:30. Ow! The ferocious beast howled and its huge body fell to the ground. In the next moment, a figure leaped into the air and sat on the dead ferocious beast. After pulling out the golden arrow, he revealed a smile. Young Master Yu, we meet again. Yi Feifei said with a smile, holding a small golden bow in her hand. Looking at the stunned Wang Yu, she smiled and squinted her eyes. Seeing this, the surrounding ferocious beasts howled and rushed forward. Wang Yu immediately exclaimed, watch out behind you. Just as her voice came out, Yi Feifei pulled out the golden arrow stuck in the beast's head and put on the bow in her hand. She turned her body back and shot out with a swish. At the same time, she jumped down from the dead ferocious beast's body and squatted down. Her hand brushed her waist, and 3 arrows were put on the small bow in her hand. Swish! 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 3 sharp airflows were shot out, piercing through the air and shooting toward the 3 ferocious beasts. 1 arrow hit its fatal spot, and the other arrow shot out, and the ferocious beasts fell down. After shooting a few arrows, she put the small bow on her waist, pulled out the dagger, and jumped forward. She raised the dagger in her hand and attacked the ferocious beasts. Looking at this scene, Wang Yu could not help but be stunned and looked at Yi Feifei incredulously. Was this still the Yi Feifei from a few months ago? At that time, her strength was not even as good as his. How could her combat effectiveness be so amazing in just 3 months? Not only was Wang Yu dumbfounded, but even the people of that family had an incredible look on their faces. They were shocked to see the woman with a nimble body movement, full of a murderous aura, and couldn't recover from their shock. The other party was dressed in black and looked neat and tidy. She had a small golden bow on her waist, which looked like an extraordinary spirit weapon. Not to mention her accurate archery, her attack power was also so strong, which was really surprising. Following Yi Feifei's attack and Du Fan's appearance, the remaining dozen or so ferocious beasts roared as they fearfully glanced at the two of them. However, they did not dare to continue the fight and quickly left. God knew how many ferocious beasts in the inner area had been destroyed by these two people during this time. Humans didn't know, but the beasts did. Now that they saw these two people, they only wanted to avoid them as far as possible. After killing the ferocious beast closest to her, Yi Feifei saw that those ferocious beasts had escaped, so he did not chase them. Instead, he turned back and stood beside Du Fan, looking curiously at Wang Yu, who was lying on the ground and protecting the woman. The clansman quickly helped the two up. After standing firm, Wang Yu cupped her hands to the two of them with a pale face. "Young Master Du, Miss Yi, thank you for your help." Yi Feifei smiled and said, "It's okay, I'll just take it as practice. It's just that when I heard Big Brother Du said it was you, I was really surprised." Du Fan looked at him and said, "Wang Yu, even if you didn't leave the Cyan Demon Forest, you shouldn't have come to the inner circle. This place is not suitable for you to gain experience." Wang Yu smiled bitterly. In a few months, his strength had improved, but compared with Yi Feifei and Du Fan, there was no comparison at all. He was a little complacent, thinking that he had made rapid progress, but he did not expect that Yi Feifei, who was weaker than him a few months ago, was now stronger than him. Chapter 42-31. Seeing that Wang Yu was seriously injured, Yi Feifei gently pulled Du Fan's sleeve and said to Wang Yu, "The injury on your back is serious. Treat it first. Otherwise, it will be inflamed." In this forest, because of the climate and the bad conditions, some injuries would be very troublesome if they were not treated in time. "Wang Yu, come here and sit down. I'll treat your wound first," the woman who supported Wang Yu said as she helped him to sit down. At this time, the middle-aged man and the old man looked at each other, and then they cupped their hands to Du Fan and Yi Feifei, saying, "Thank you for your help. I'm Lin Dong, the head of the Lin family, and this is the elder of the Lin family. How should I address you?" Du Fan nodded slightly and said, "My surname is Du." He didn't say anything else after that. "My name is Yi Feifei," she said with a smile. "Are you old friends with Wang Yu?" The middle-aged man, Lin Dong, asked and looked at Wang Yu. You can say that we know each other," Du Fan said. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed a bottle of medicine forward. "Use this. Yes, your injuries will heal faster." "Thank you." Wang Yu took the bottle and knew that it was the medicine of the ghost doctor, which was very precious. He couldn't help but feel grateful. He handed the medicine to the woman and looked at Yi Feifei enviously, saying, "Miss Ye's strength has improved rapidly. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it." Hearing this, Yi Feifei was happy and said with a smile on his face, "I have improved a little because Big Brother Du has been training me for the past few months. You don't know how I survived these few months. It is not easy to have the strength I have now." Then she smiled embarrassedly and looked at Du Fan beside her. Seeing that he was looking at her, she said with a smile, I know. I can't be complacent. I have to guard against arrogance and impatience." But as soon as she finished speaking, she took out a small bow and arrow from her waist as if presenting a treasure and said, "Wang Yu, look, this is the treasure I got here. My archery is now very accurate." Seeing this, Du Fan shook his head helplessly, but a smile appeared on his face. He looked at Wang Yu and asked, "Are you going to stay here or leave?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man glanced at Wang Yu and said to Du Fan, "Young Master Du, it's like this. Now that we have suffered heavy casualties, we can no longer practice here. I plan to take them away." Du Fan nodded. "It's good to leave. At least we can save our lives if we turn back and leave the Cyan Devil Forest. It's hard to say if we continue to go deeper." He looked at the sky and said, "Since you guys are out of danger, and we still have things to do, we won't stay here for long. Take care." Hearing this, Wang Yu, who had been silent, saw that they were about to leave. She immediately stood up regardless of the wound on her back and said, "Can I follow you?" Hearing this, Du Fan was slightly surprised and looked at him. "Why do you want to follow us? You are injured like this." You should leave here and go back to recuperate. Although I'm stronger than when I first came in, I'm not that much stronger, so I... As he spoke, he looked at Du Fan with a pleading gaze. Please let me follow you. I won't make trouble for you. I just think that when you train Miss Yi, I can also train with you. Chapter 42-32. Du Fan's eyes flashed slightly. He glanced at him and said, your strength can't keep up with us. If you encounter danger, you can't protect yourself. The danger in the depths of the Cyan Devil Forest is far more dangerous than what you have encountered now. Moreover, you should know the purpose of our trip. Wang Yu, your injury. The woman supported him, but he pushed her away. He stepped forward and knelt down. His eyes were firm. I know, but I want to be stronger. Please take me with you. I will try my best to keep up with you and won't drag you down. Yi Feifei felt sorry for him, but he didn't say anything. He just looked at Du Fan and wondered what he would do. It's Master's decision to let you stay. If you want to follow us, wait for me to ask Master. Du Fan said. He glanced at him and said, get up first and treat your wound. Also, the smell of blood here is too strong. You have to leave as soon as possible, lest other fierce beasts are attracted. Lin Dong and the old man naturally knew this. They wanted to leave after Wang Yu was bandaged, but they did not expect that Wang Yu suddenly knelt down and begged to follow them. At this moment, the two of them were a little surprised. Treat your wounds. We're going to move back. Lin Dong said. He pulled Wang Yu aside and asked in a low voice, Wang Yu, have you really decided to go with them? Who the hell are they? Can you follow them like this? Du Fan took Yi Feifei to a place not far away. He took out his communication jade plate and asked Feng Zhou's decision. After all, if they wanted to take Wang Yu with them, it would not be a matter of 1 or 2 months. They might have to stay here for half a year or even a year. If they wanted to take someone who didn't belong to them with them for so long, they naturally had to ask Feng Zhou's decision. About 7 or 8 minutes later, Du Fan and Yi Feifei came back. Looking at Wang Yu, who was looking at them nervously and waiting for them to announce their decision, Du Fan smiled and said, come with us. Master agreed. Hearing this, Wang Yu finally felt relieved. He showed a relieved smile and looked at Lin Dong. Uncle Lin, I will go with them. Be careful on your way back. Lin Dong sighed inwardly. He looked at him and asked, Wang Yu, if you go with them, how long will you stay here? Your marriage with Jilin. Lin Jilin looked at Wang Yu, her beautiful eyes filled with reluctance. After getting along with each other for a few months, they fell in love with each other and decided that Wang Yu would come to propose marriage after they got out of the Cyan Demon Forest. But now... Wang Yu, do you really want to go with them? She asked softly, her eyes full of reluctance. Wang Yu said apologetically to Du Fan and Yi Feifei, please wait for me. I need to say a few words to them. The two nodded and went to wait for him not far away. Uncle Lin, I don't know how long I will stay here, but now I have this opportunity to follow them. Even if the road ahead is full of danger, I must go. His voice paused as he looked at the woman beside him and said, as for my marriage with Jilin, I want to wait until I return before going to the Lin family to propose. However, if Jilin meets someone more suitable than me, I will give her my blessings. Chapter 42-33. Not far away, Du Fan and Yi Feifei glanced at Wang Yu and the woman. Du Fan didn't care, but Yi Feifei said with a mocking face, Brother Du, look how powerful Wang Yu is. It's only been a few months, but he's able to talk about a marriage by himself. Miss Lin is also very beautiful. He's really lucky. Du Fan glanced at him and said, is he powerful? Even if he's powerful, he won't be scratched on the back by a ferocious beast. That wound won't be so easy to heal. Now he has to follow us. He'll suffer. I thought that since Master let him follow this family, he wouldn't be allowed to follow us to join Master. I didn't expect that Master would agree in the end. Yi Feifei said with a smile, I know that he sees my strength getting stronger and wants to follow you to improve his strength. Du Fan snorted and said, I teach you and train you without reservation because you're one of us. I can teach you some martial arts and cultivation methods that are not taught to outsiders. Even when you advanced some time ago, I gave you the elixir refined by Master to improve your strength. But he's not one of us. Even if he follows us, it's impossible for him to be like you. That's why I was so wise to choose to follow Master. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing now. She couldn't help sighing. She really felt that the decision she made at that time was the most correct one. There's still room for improvement in your strength. What's more, you've got such a treasure. Archery can be used to attack from a distance, which is also your specialty. You have to work hard to improve. You know that there are no weak people around Master. If you stay stagnant, you'll be assigned to other places one day. Hearing this, Yi Feifei nodded seriously and said, Well, I know. I'll work hard to improve my strength. I won't disgrace you. Seeing this, Du Fan didn't say anything more. At this time, they saw that the family had left, and Wang Yu was coming towards them. We can go. Wang Yu said, looking at the two people. Then let's go. Du Fan didn't let him rest for long. Instead, he turned around and walked into the depths. He said, My master has already found traces of the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. Now, he is searching for it. He wants us to meet up with him as soon as possible. You can follow him. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward. His figure was extremely fast. Follow me. Yi Feifei followed Du and waved to Wang Yu. Even though her strength had improved, she couldn't keep up with Du Fan's footsteps, but at least she wouldn't be left behind too. Even so, he didn't make a sound. Even so, he didn't make a sound, he didn't make a sound. But even so, he didn't make a sound, he didn't make a sound, he didn't make a sound, he didn't make a sound even so, he didn't make a sound, he didn't, he, and his tea. He. Fant. Behind he, to, s. Was to follow was he, a. 3 days later, Wang Yu, who was already very haggard, staggered. She held the tree beside her to prevent herself from falling. Chapter 42-34. Du Fan stopped and looked back. Then he came to Wang Yu's side. I'm fine. I can keep walking. Wang Yu said. His lips were dry and cracked. Because the injury on his back had not fully recovered and he had no time to rest, his face was very pale. After a few days, he had lost a lot of weight. Take a rest. Du Fan said, we should be near the place the master said. I'll check the map again. You sit down and rest for a while. Hearing this, Yi Feifei helped Wang Yu sit down, gave him water, and said, take off your coat. I'll help you change the dressing. In such an environment, it was possible for the wound to worsen if he sweated all day without taking a bath. No, it's okay. I'll be fine after a rest. Wang Yu said, shaking his head. Seeing this, Yi Feifei did not say anything more. He sat next to Du Fan, who was looking at the map, and asked, Brother Du, are we almost there? Well, it should be in front. Du Fan pointed to the mountain in front and said, according to Ling Shuang, it's that mountain. Let's wait for the master there. Well, let's go. Wang Yu gritted his teeth and stood up. Seeing this, Du Fan said, "Take a rest." He paused and asked, "Is your wound getting worse?" "It's much better with the dressing, but I accidentally bumped into it yesterday. But it's okay. I'll clean it up when we get there." "Fei Fei, please help me with the dressing," Wang Yu said. Hearing this, Du Fan said, "Fei Fei, take off his clothes and check the wound." "Okay." Yi Fei Fei answered and said to Wang Yu, "I'll take off your coat and check your wound. You can't stay like this. The wound needs to be treated first." Finally, under their persuasion, he took off his clothes. When they saw the inflamed wound on his back, they both frowned. The wound was more serious than they had imagined. Some parts had already started to fester, and the surrounding area was red and swollen. They guessed that the wound had not been cleaned properly and was infected. "We have to find a water source and let him wash his entire body. Otherwise, his injuries won't heal," Yi Fei Fei said with a frown. "Then let's go to the front. There is a water source ahead where the masters gather." Du Fan said, looking at Wang Yu, "Let's go. Hold on a little longer." "All right." Thus, he followed them and continued forward. Ever since Fengzhou found traces of the nine-tailed spiritual fox that day, he had been searching the surrounding area. The search area was also expanding day by day. However, after a few days, there was still no news. On this day, knowing that Du Fan and the others would be arriving soon, Ling Shuang and Ling Shuang went to the place where they had agreed to meet. When they arrived, they saw a few people washing themselves at the source of the spring. Ling Shuang and Ling Shuang looked at each other and walked forward. "When did you arrive?" Fengzhou asked, walking towards them. "Master." Du Fan and Yi Fei Fei turned around. When they saw her, they smiled and said, "We just arrived." "Ghost Doctor." Wang Yu cupped her hands and saluted her with her upper body naked. Looking at the wound on Wang Yu's back, Fengzhou raised his eyebrows and said, "Why is it so serious?" "The wound is inflamed. It's a long story." Wang Yu smiled bitterly. Chapter 42-35. Du Fan followed and left. Yi Fei Fei helped him clean up the wound before walking to Fengzhou with Wang Yu. "Ghost Doctor." Wang Yu called and looked at her. "Turn around," Fengzhou said. He thought she wanted to see his wound, so he answered and turned his back to her. Du Fan, Yi Fei Fei, and Ling Shuang stood aside and watched without speaking. Fengzhou raised his hand, and the spiritual power in his palm surged. A green light diffused out and slowly covered the wound on Wang Yu's back. The red and swollen wound gradually healed with the green lotus spirit in his palm. Wang Yu only felt a cool feeling between the skin and flesh on his back, which was extremely comfortable. He wanted to look back, but because the people behind him didn't let him look back, he could only stand still as much as possible. As time went by, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but he felt that the wound on his back didn't hurt at all. "It's okay," Fengzhou said, taking back his hand and exhaling softly. Wang Yu heard the sound and turned around. As soon as he moved, he didn't feel the pain of the wound on his back. He was stunned and touched his back, only to find that the wound on his back seemed to be healed. This. What's this? My master helped you heal your injuries, are you still not happy? Du Fan glanced at him and said, "Why haven't you put on your clothes yet?" Therefore, Wang Yu quickly came to her senses and quickly took out a new set of clothes to put on. While suppressing the doubts and shock in her heart, she bowed to Feng Nine and said, "Thank you, Ghost Doctor." Feng Jiwei nodded before looking at Du Fan and the others. She said, "Ling Shuang and I have been searching in this area for the past few days. However, other than that day when I saw the nine-tailed fox, I haven't seen it again. However, I'm certain that it's still here. I just don't know where it has hidden itself. That's why I asked you to come over to tell you to search in different areas from today onwards. Don't miss any place where the nine-tailed fox might appear. Well, Master, you divide the area. Lang Hua said and took out a map. So, they found a place to sit down. Feng Jiu drew the area and asked them to search. Finally, he said, if you find the trace of the nine-tailed fox, don't disturb it. Inform me at once and tell me where the nine-tailed fox is found. Yes. They answered and then left in different teams. Feng Jiu and Ling Shuang searched in 2 areas respectively, and Du Fan led Yi Feifei and Wang Yu to another area. At this time, none of them knew how long they would have to search in the depths of the Cyan Devil Forest. The nine-tailed fox seemed to know that Feng Jiu and others were looking for it, so it hid well and didn't show up easily. The days passed while they were searching and hiding. Half a year later, in the depths of the Cyan Devil Forest, early in the morning, a bolt of lightning struck down, shaking the entire sky. After the first bolt of lightning struck down, the second bolt of lightning also struck down. Chapter 42-36. Boom! When the third heavenly thunder gathered a strong airflow and struck down, the defensive bounded domain around Feng Jiu was broken. The heavenly thunder fell on her body. At that moment, she ran the spiritual power in her hands. The vitality of the surrounding trees and the spiritual qi in the Cyan Demon Forest all flowed toward her and was absorbed into her body. As she withdrew her aura, the aura in the surrounding air gradually returned to normal. She exhaled softly and opened her eyes. Du Fan, Ling Shuang, and Yi Feifei saw this and immediately stepped forward. Master. Wang Yu came to her senses and quickly followed them. Congratulations, Master. Your strength has finally recovered to the Divine King level. Du Fan congratulated her with a smile. He was very happy. Since that battle, Master's strength had regressed. Now, she finally broke through again and her strength returned to the Divine King level. Congratulations, Master. Ling Shuang and Yi Feifei also said. Congratulations, Dr. Ghost. Wang Yu also congratulated her. In the past 6 months, he had followed them. Although his strength had not improved as much as Yi Feifei's, it was still much faster than before. It could be said that whether it was his strength or his combat strength, they had all improved as he had expected. This also proved that he had made the right choice to stay here with them. After a while, Feng Jiu stood up. She looked into the depths of the forest and asked, "Have you found anything these days?" They were silent and shook their heads. No, there is still no news. They had been here for 8 to 9 months, but up until now, other than the time when their master met the nine-tailed spirit fox, no one else had seen it. Hearing this, Feng Jiu frowned slightly. She looked into the depths of the forest and no one knew what she was thinking. Master, we have searched everywhere. In the past 6 months, we have almost searched the areas you assigned us twice, but we still haven't found the nine-tailed fox. Could it have escaped to another place? Du Fan asked. We can't keep looking like this. Let me think about it. She turned around and walked towards the water source alone. When she came to the water source, she scooped up a handful of water and washed her face. The cool spring water gradually calmed her mind. She took off her boots and soaked her feet in the water. She watched her jade-white feet paddle in the water and watched as the spring water flowed down through the cracks between the rocks. She sat there for more than half a day. It was not until noon when Ling Shuang came to her with food that she came back to her senses. The forest was so big, and there were only a few of them. It was easier said than done to find the nine-tailed spirit fox. Even if the nine-tailed spiritual fox was in the area that they had marked out, if they were not careful, the nine-tailed spiritual fox would pass by them. If they continued to search like this, they would not be able to find it even after a few years. She followed Leng Shuang to the bonfire and lowered her head to think. Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind. She stopped in her tracks and her eyes lit up. Why didn't I think of it? She slapped her forehead and a big smile appeared on her face. She quickly walked forward. Ling Shuang saw this and asked, "Master, what did you think of?" Chapter 42-37. She came to the fire and sat down. Looking at the meat they were roasting on the fire, she took a small knife and cut a piece, saying, "Eat first, I'll tell you after you've eaten." Hearing this, the few people who wanted to ask looked at each other and did not speak again. They ate the roasted meat first. After filling their stomachs, Fengjiu asked with a smile, "Why do you think we haven't found the nine-tailed fox spirit even after we've divided the area?" The few of them looked at each other, saying, "We only have a few people, and the nine-tailed fox spirit is not hidden very well." That's right, if we want to search for it in this endless forest, it's undoubtedly like looking for a needle in a haystack. Since that's the case, why don't we get the beasts to help us? Her eyes were full of smiles, saying, "We don't know where the nine-tailed fox spirit is hiding, but the beasts in the depths of this forest know. As long as we start with them, we should be able to get news of the nine-tailed fox spirit very quickly." Hearing this, Du Fan asked, "But how do we get the beasts to help us? We've been here for more than half a year, and the beasts here have all run away when they see us. They don't even dare to meet us. Even if we want a roast meat to eat, we have to put in a lot of effort to catch a beast." Because they had been searching in this area, it could be said that the beasts in this area had already treated them as beasts with their tails between their legs. Wherever they appeared, there would be no beasts around. Fengjiu looked at Du Fan, saying, "Find the strongest beast in this area, and let it give the order to search. I remember that there's a divine beast here, you guys find it." Hearing this, the few of them looked at each other and finally answered, "Yes." They roughly knew what she meant, so they split into several groups and quickly went in different directions. Finding the nine-tailed fox spirit was more difficult, but finding a divine beast in the depths of this forest was extremely easy. After a day, Du Fan and the others tied up a divine beast in front of Fengjiu. "Master, we found a divine beast. Do you think this one will do?" Du Fan said as he looked at the tied-up tiger beast. Fengjiu stepped forward and waved his hand, indicating for them to retreat to the side. Then, he came to the side of the tiger beast. The divine beast was already gigantic, and with the addition of the tiger, it could be said that if it were to collide, no one would be able to block the force. He gently patted the tiger beast's head and said, "I'll give you two choices. 1. Help me find the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox and I'll let you go. I'll also give you a pill to increase your strength and let you enter the peak of the divine beast stage. 2. I'll kill you." When the tiger beast heard this, its eyes widened. "You're going too far. You don't have a choice." It had listened carefully, but it didn't expect Fengjiu to mean this. "How is it? Do you want to do it or not?" Fengjiu asked, his voice cold. He played with a dagger that he had just taken out, and the threat was very obvious. "Don't waste your time. Even if you find the nine-tailed spirit fox, it's not easy to deal with," the tiger beast said, and glared at Fengjiu. "Furthermore, I don't know where it's hiding. Even if it knew, it wouldn't dare to say it. Is that so?" Chapter 42-38. This human possessed an ancient aura. It could be said that from the day she came to the depths of the azure demonic forest, the tiger knew about it. It was precisely because it knew that it had been hiding far away, but it did not expect to be caught. It lowered its head and asked, "You already have an ancient divine beast, so why do you want to catch the nine-tailed spiritual fox?" It was not that this human did not have a contracted beast. On the contrary, she had more than one contracted beast, and they were all very powerful. Since that was the case, why did she spend half a year looking for the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox? Fengjiu glanced at it indifferently and said, "This is not something you should care about." She stretched out her hand and patted its head, saying, "You should think about it. If I catch it, your strength will increase by another level. Then you will be the most powerful existence in the Azure Demonic Forest. Isn't that good?" The tiger beast lowered its head as it listened. It was naturally aware of this point, but it was still worried. If the nine-tailed spirit fox knew about this, it was afraid that it would die miserably. After all, its strength was far inferior to its own. However, the temptation was so great. How is it? Fengjiu asked with a trace of impatience in her voice. If not for the fact that the tiger beast had lived here for a long time and had a certain amount of power, she would not have looked for it. Instead, she would have asked the cloud-swallowing beast and Lao Bai to search for it. However, even though the cloud-swallowing beast was powerful, they were not local tyrants. "All right, I promise you. Hurry up and untie me so that I can go back and ask the other beasts to help find it." As the tiger beast spoke, it twisted its body and tugged at the immortal binding rope on its body. Fengjiu waved her hand and kept the immortal binding rope. The tiger beast stretched its back and looked at Fengjiu, saying, "We are only responsible for finding the places where it has appeared and where it is hiding. Once we find it, we will secretly tell you. As for catching it, you have to do it yourself. We beasts will not interfere." Hearing this, Fengjiu chuckled, "All right, that's it. I don't expect you to help me catch it. Once you find it, don't disturb it. Just tell me the location." Thus, the man and beast decided. Seeing that the tiger beast had left, Yi Feifei asked, "Master, aren't you worried that it won't come back? What if it lies to us?" "It won't. Because tigers are the kings of the mountains. Now that it was suppressed by the ancient nine-tailed spiritual fox, it naturally would not miss such an opportunity." Fengjiu chuckled and looked away, saying, "All right, let's get ready." Next, they rested and adjusted their bodies. On the other side, in a hidden cave, the nine-tailed spiritual fox had just come out of the cave when it saw the beasts not far away. It felt strange but did not think much of it and leaped into the depths of the forest. That human in red robes wanted to catch it. It was simply a fool's dream. Half a year had passed and it was still safe and sound. Those humans did not know where it was hiding. Chapter 42-39. After the tiger beast received the news, it went to the place where Fengjiu and the rest were to look for them. "I found the ancient mythical beast. It's in an underground cave 2 mountains away from here," the tiger beast said as it stared at Fengjiu. "You said you would give me the advancement pill." Fengjiu was overjoyed when she heard this. She stood up and said, "Lead the way. We'll talk when we find it." The tiger beast hesitated for a moment but finally decided to lead them there. It said unhappily, "Follow me." As it said that, it leaped forward. "Let's go," Fengjiu said to the few people beside her and followed it. The group followed the tiger beast into the depths of the forest. After they crossed 2 mountains, the sky was already dark. The tiger beast leading the way stopped at this moment. "I won't go ahead. You guys go ahead and find it yourselves." Even though it was a mythical beast, it was still afraid of the ancient mythical beast. Leading them here was already the limit. If the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox knew that it was the tiger beast that led them here, thinking of this, it couldn't help but shudder and step back. Fengjiu glanced at it and said to Du Fan, "Bring them to the surroundings and set up a formation." Be quiet and don't alarm the spirit fox. I'll go ahead and take a look. As she said that, she restrained her aura and went ahead. The tiger beast wanted to stop her and ask her to give it the pill, but seeing her go ahead, it thought for a moment, swung its tail, snorted and left. Actually, it was one thing to have the pill. With its mythical beast rank, if this ancient mythical beast wasn't here, it would still be able to do whatever it wanted in this forest. Fengjiu went forward and released her divine sense to search carefully until she found a hidden underground cave. The cave was only big enough for one person to squeeze in, but the space inside was huge. However, when she scanned the underground cave with her divine sense, she discovered that there was no trace of the ancient spirit fox. Therefore, she went to Du Fan and the others. Don't set up the formation here. Go set it up over there. Also, after setting up the formation, hide your aura and don't run around. That ancient spirit fox isn't in the cave right now. It should be back soon. She instructed them to go to the other side. Alright, they responded and followed Du Fan to the other side to set up the formation. When it came to setting up formations, apart from Fengjiu, Du Fan was the most proficient. The rest of them were only learning from him. Fengjiu looked around, and when his gaze landed on a tall tree, he jumped up and checked the surroundings. On the other side, the tiger beast had already left quietly. Under Du Fan's lead, the others had set up a formation around them. At this moment, Fengjiu, who was on the tree, transmitted his voice to them. That nine-tailed spirit fox is back. Quickly hide. Hearing her words, Du Fan quickly led the others to hide. He hid his aura and hid under the cover of the night. Fengjiu, who was on the tree, was dressed in red, but the cover of the pitch-black night formed a very good camouflage. She hid her aura and looked at the white figure that was shuttling through the forest in the dark night. She couldn't hide her excitement. After searching for so long, they had finally found the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. Chapter 42-40. She felt that this nine-tailed spiritual fox was the most suitable one to be her precious daughter's natal contract beast. It was one thing to see it in the painting, but now she saw it with her own eyes. As it ran and jumped, its 9 snow-white tails swayed behind it. It was so ostentatious and beautiful. As the nine-tailed spirit fox got closer and closer, its footsteps gradually slowed down. From time to time, it would look around and sniff the surroundings. Seeing this, her eyes moved slightly. She quietly skimmed through the night and went to the back to block its escape route. Even if it really sensed something, she would force it into the range of the bounded domain. In this way, she would not have to worry about it escaping again. Perhaps the nine-tailed spirit fox had really sensed the presence of a human. It stopped its hooves and lowered its body to look in front of it. Its pair of blue eyes stared intently in front of it. However, it retreated step by step. After a few breaths, it suddenly turned around and ran away. Fengjiu didn't continue concealing herself when she saw this, and she directly flashed out from within the veil of night. At the same time, she flicked her sleeve, and the 2 cloud-devouring beasts and Senior White ran out from within the space to help obstruct the ancient nine-tailed fox. You can't escape. Lie down obediently. Senior White shouted as he leaped up, transforming from a horse into a white dragon as he charged forward. The 2 cloud-swallowing beasts growled. They did not go forward, but did not retreat. They just guarded it tightly to prevent it from escaping. Fengjiu looked at the nine-tailed spiritual fox that turned around and looked at him while retreating. He could not help but smile and said, "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. I just want you to be my daughter's contracted beast." She. The white fox exhaled 2 breaths. It stared at Fengjiu fiercely. It suddenly turned around and ran in the direction behind it. Seeing this, Fengjiu chased after it. It crashed into the tactical matrix and wanted to break out. However, it was bounced back by the tactical matrix. It jumped and landed steadily. It squeaked and stared at Du Fan and the others who came out from the darkness. Finally, it leaped into the underground cave. Not good. Fengjiu exclaimed when he saw this and quickly rushed forward. She didn't think that there was only one exit in this underground cave. Perhaps there were several exits inside. If they let it escape, they might never be able to catch it again. With a flick of her hand, she threw out a silver net towards the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox. It was so fast that it could be said that it was completed in an instant. The nine-tailed spirit fox entered the underground cave half a step slower. However, when it wanted to rush to the entrance of the cave, it was covered by a silver net. The silver net shrunk and trapped the nine-tailed spirit fox inside. Roar! It howled like a puppy and curled up its body. Its sharp claws flashed as it tried to tear the silver net apart, but it couldn't. Fengjiu walked forward quickly and couldn't help but smile. It seems that it's still a cub. We should be glad that it's only a cub. If it was an adult ancient nine-tailed spirit fox, it wouldn't be so easy to catch it. Du Fan and the others quickly came forward. Seeing the snow-white nine-tailed spirit fox struggling in the silver net, they couldn't help but smile happily. After such a long time, they finally caught the ancient spiritual fox. Chapter 42-41. Congratulations, Master, Ling Shuang and Yi Feifei also said. This time, the little master's contract beast was found. Ghost Doctor, is this ancient spiritual fox still a cub? Wang Yu asked, looking at the little white fox lying on the ground and staring at them after struggling to no avail. Looking at it from such a close distance, it was really beautiful. Whether it was the eyes, the fur, or the nine tails, they were all so beautiful that people could not help but want to go up and touch it. It's still a cub, so it's not very powerful and can't transform into a human shape. However, it should be able to speak human language. Fengjiu said, squatting down to look at the snow fox, which was curled up in the silver net, and said with a smile, I'll find you a master. In this way, you can grow up with her. Chee! The nine-tailed fox on the ground showed its teeth and made a chee-chee sound, as if it was showing its resistance. It stared at Fengjiu and the others, and the next moment, its whole body suddenly emitted a snow-white light. This light was so dazzling that they could not help but close their eyes or block it with their hands. However, at that moment, Fengjiu, Du Fan, and the others felt the world in front of them spin. It was as if they had been sucked into some place, and they lost consciousness in an instant. When the light dissipated, not only had Fengjiu and the others disappeared, even Senior White, Tun Yun, and the others had disappeared. Even the ancient nine-tailed fox that was trapped by the silver net had disappeared as well. The vast area was completely empty, and it was as if they had never appeared at all. In the pitch-black forest, a gust of wind blew past, causing leaves to fall from the trees and scatter all around the area. A few hundred meters away from here, in the grass, the tiger beast was lying there with its eyes wide open. It watched as Fengjiu and the rest disappeared from where they were, along with the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox that had been captured. When the first ray of sunlight shone on the ground in the early morning, Fengjiu slowly opened his eyes. What came into his eyes was a sky that looked like burning clouds. Her chaotic thoughts cleared up in an instant. She leaped up and looked at the unconscious Du Fan and the rest lying around her, as well as the nine-tailed Arctic fox in the silver net. She remembered that the moment the light flashed, her whole body seemed to be sucked into some place. Almost instinctively, she put her contract beasts into the space. Then, everything went black and she didn't know anything. Now, she'd scanned the area with her divine sense and confirmed that Senior White and Tun Yun were within the space, so she was at ease. He got up and went to Ling Shuang's side to check on her. Then, he took out a bottle of medicine and placed it under her nose for her to smell. Not long after, she slowly woke up. Master. Well, it's good that you're awake. Wake them up too. She handed the medicine to Ling Shuang and walked towards the ancient nine-tailed spirit fox that was still lying motionless on the ground. Get up. She kicked lightly with her foot, and the nine-tailed spirit fox moved a little. In the next moment, it wanted to jump up vigilantly, but it was caught in the silver net and could only roll back to the ground. It's good that you're awake. Let me ask you, where did you take us? Fengjiu asked, her gaze falling on the nine-tailed spirit fox. She remembered that this ancient nine-tailed spirit fox had a hidden ability, which was to travel through time and space, and to any place in an instant. Chapter 42-42. This was no longer the Cyan Demon Forest. Moreover, the spiritual aura in the air here was extremely weak, and the weather was extremely hot. Looking around, the ground was dry and cracked. Not to mention any trees, weeds, and forests, there was not a single living creature other than them. The nine-tailed fox turned its blue eyes and looked at the surrounding environment, but it did not speak. Instead, it closed its eyes like an angry child and did not want to talk to Fengjiu at all. Master, where are we? Du Fan came over, rubbed his neck and brushed the mud and dust off his body. He looked around with a surprised face. I don't know where we are. This fox doesn't speak at all. Fengjiu said, frowning slightly. He did not bother to ask the nine-tailed fox anymore. Instead, he looked around and said, let's find someone to ask about this place. Okay. Everyone answered and stood around. Fengjiu glanced at the nine-tailed fox. He flicked his sleeve and put it into the space. Then he said to them, let's go. Let's go ahead and have a look. Then he stepped forward. Fengjiu walked fast in the front, and the people behind him also followed quickly. Du Fan and the others knew that she had a space, but when Wang Yute saw that she could put the nine-tailed fox into the space without a contract, she was slightly surprised. However, she did not ask much and just thought that she should have some powerful space treasure. The current situation made him have no other thoughts. He saw that the people in front of him walked fast, so he also followed them. However, the road seemed to have no end. There was no end to it, and the weather was getting hotter and hotter. Even though they were all cultivators, at this time, they couldn't help but sweat all over their clothes. They were sweating profusely from the heat. Master, the weather here seems to be a bit wrong. It shouldn't be so hot. Du Fan said and raised his sleeve to wipe the sweat on his forehead. Fengjiu replied, and, something is definitely not right. The main thing is that we don't even know where we are. She stopped walking and said to them, take a break and drink some water. Everyone stopped to rest. After drinking some water to calm themselves down, they continued to walk. Seeing that there was no sign of them, Fengjiu directly flew forward on his glazed feather. The few people behind him also took out their magic tools and flew forward. However, what they didn't expect was that as time passed, they calculated that it should be sunset, but there was no sign of the sun setting in the sky. The weather was still so hot, and the sky was still as hot as noon. It should be evening now. The sun should be setting. As Ling Shuang spoke, he looked at the sun in the sky and said, that sun doesn't seem to move. It just hangs there. This place is really strange. Du Fan said. Because of the heat in the air, when they looked at the distant place, the heat in the air was slightly distorted, and a city loomed. Master, there seems to be a city in front. Du Fan said and looked ahead. Then he sped up and went forward. Chapter 42-43. Master, why does it seem like there's no end here? And there's no one here. Yi Feifei said, swallowing his saliva and looking up. He only felt that the sun was giving him a headache. They had been exposed to the sun for a day, walking in front and flying in the back. But even so, after a long time, their bodies could not bear it. Moreover, it should be night, but the sun and moon had not yet risen. This kind of psychological torture was even more torturous. I don't know what's going on either. We can only continue to move forward and see if there's an oasis. Fengjiu said, looking ahead. Flying in this desert, looking up, there was only sand, as if there was no end to this place, making people gradually feel anxious. Master, was the fantasy city we saw earlier a mirage? Du Fan asked, looking at Fengjiu beside him. The illusory city that seemed to be right in front of them had long disappeared as they approached it. However, the scene looked very real, just like the mirages that he had seen in the books before. That's right. Fengjiu replied, saying, that mirage usually appears in the extremely hot desert, or on the surface of the sea, but generally, this scene means that this place exists. Perhaps, it's not far from us, or perhaps, it's very far from us. She said slowly, looking at the bright sun in the sky, saying, we've been walking for a day and a night, but this place still looks like it's daytime, which reminds me of a place. What place? Du Fan asked. The nightless heaven. Fengjiu said slowly, frowning slightly, saying, according to ancient records, in the 3,000 worlds, there's a place called the nightless heaven. Here, there's no night, only day, and the sun never sets in the west, but the moon still rises. However, under the sunlight, even if the moon appears, very few people can see it. Ancient records say that the nightless heaven lacks spiritual power, and the weather is hot all year round. The people here live in an abyss of suffering, but I didn't expect that we would come here. This ancient nine-tailed spirit fox's ability is not small, it can actually let us travel through the world to another place. If that's the case, it shouldn't be difficult for it to send us back, right? Du Fan asked, looking at Fengjiu. Fengjiu smiled bitterly, saying, you don't know this ancient nine-tailed spirit fox is still a cub. Now, it used up its remaining power to send us here. I guess, even if we want to go back now, it can't. Even though it was an ancient mythical beast, its cub's strength was still limited. It would not be able to do something as difficult as shuttling through space in a short period of time. Then, we can't go back. Yi Feifei couldn't help but ask. That won't be the case. Fengjiu smiled, saying, my strength has recovered, and I'm the master of this world. It won't be difficult for me to leave this place, but it will be a bit troublesome. However, once the nine-tailed spirit fox recovers, it can take us away. The prerequisite is that it is willing to take us back. Chapter 42-44. They kept moving forward in the desert. Fengjiu had been counting the time. After about 4 days and 3 nights of walking and stopping, they finally saw a city on the flying sword. Master, look, it's the city we saw a few days ago. Yi Feifei said happily. He had been exposed to the sun for the past few days, and there was nothing to hide from the sun. His entire body was tanned. Not only her, but Wang Yu was also much darker. Only Fengjiu, Du Fan, and Leng Shuang looked the same as before. Not for any other reason, but simply because the 3 of them had higher cultivations. The circulation of their spiritual energies naturally formed a protective layer around their bodies. Finally, we found a place to rest. It's been a tough journey. Du Fan sighed with a smile on his face. I just want to have a good sleep now. Wang Yu said. Her lips were a little chapped. Even if she didn't lack water, it was too much for her to bear in the sun. Let's find a place to have a good rest first. We'll talk about the rest later. As Feng Zhou spoke, she sped up on her rainbow-glazed feather until she reached the city gate. Only then did she put away her feather and land on the ground. Sleepless City. Feng Zhou looked at the 3 words on the city gate and read it softly. Why is the city gate closed? And there's no one here. Ling Shuang looked around. The city gate was closed, and no one could be seen. It should be night now. Du Fan said. He walked forward and patted the city gate. Is there anyone here? Open the city gate. However, there was only silence in response. He took a step back and looked at the city wall. He turned back to Feng Zhou and said, Master, there seems to be a bounded domain in the city. If there was no bounded domain, they could directly enter from the city wall. Well, it's a defensive bounded domain. Feng Zhou looked up and said, let's go to the wall and wait. There's no sun over there, so it'll be cooler. Then he walked toward the wall. Seeing this, they followed him to the wall to rest. Sitting by the wall, they didn't get any sunlight. Now that they were sitting down, it was a little cooler. They took out water from the space and drank it. After resting for a while, they closed their eyes and rested against the wall. After an unknown period of time, the city gates opened and a group of about 100 people walked out. When they saw Feng Zhou and the others in the corner, they were all surprised. Why are there so many foreigners here? They look really good. Their cultivation seemed to be very strong. The moment the city gate opened, Feng Zhou and the others opened their eyes. When they saw the people in white, their eyes flashed, and a trace of surprise flashed across their eyes. Because those people were talking, the 2 middle-aged men in the lead shouted in a deep voice, "All right, quiet down." As they spoke, the 2 middle-aged men looked at each other and walked towards Feng Zhou's group. They cupped their hands and asked, "May I ask where you are from? And why are you resting under the city wall?" Feng Zhou stood up and raised his hand to brush off the dust on his clothes. He slowly said, "We came from afar and passed by this place. We wanted to find a place to rest, but the city gates weren't open, so we rested here." Chapter 42-45. The middle-aged man paused for a moment and said, "You are a guest. Since you have arrived at the Nightless City, please follow me to see our city lord. Thank you for your trouble." Feng Zhou replied with a bow and followed him into the city. Seeing that the group was led by the middle-aged man to the front left, Feng Zhou's heart moved slightly. He looked at the middle-aged man who was leading the way and said, "My name is Feng Zhou. How should I address you?" "Ha ha ha, my name is Gu Mayan. I am almost 264 years old this year. Miss Feng can just call me Elder Yen." The middle-aged man said with a loud voice and steady footsteps. He chatted with Feng Zhou with a smile on his face. "It has been many years since outsiders have come to our Nightless City. You are really rare guests to come here." Feng Zhou chatted with him while watching some people in the city put away the black cloth outside the house. He asked, "Why are the houses surrounded by black cloth in this city? Is it to block the sun?" "That's right. We are the Nightless Club here. There is no night in this Nightless City. If we often face the sun, no one can stand it. Therefore, we calculate the time. Every time it is time to rest at night, the people in our city will use black cloth to block the sun. This way, we can achieve the effect of night." Gu Mayan smiled and said, "Wearing clothes with heavy colors like you will absorb the sun. If you wear it for a long time, it will be very hot. The people in our city all like to wear white clothes. White clothes are cooler than other colors. Fingzhou nodded and asked again, then what are those people who just left the city doing? We didn't see any oases or other towns on the way here. Where are they going? As I said earlier, this is a lone city. This is the only city within hundreds of miles. Therefore, other than this city, you won't be able to see any other cities. As for the team that left the city, it was because they were looking for a water source. The water source in our city is getting smaller and smaller, so they can only look for a new source of water. As he spoke, he shook his head and sighed. But it's not easy to find a new water source. Just like what Miss Fong said earlier, this place is barren. There's nothing here, and water is even rarer and more precious. Fingzhou chatted with him all the way and roughly understood the situation. When they arrived at the city lord's residence, they were invited to sit in the hall and the middle-aged man left first. Not long after, an old man in a white robe walked in. The middle-aged man followed behind him and introduced Fingzhou to him. Then he said to Fingzhou, "This is the city lord of our nightless city." When the old man came in, Fengzhou and the others sized him up without batting an eyelid. Similarly, the old man sized up Fengzhou and the others without batting an eyelid. Looking at Fengzhou and the others, the more the old man looked, the more shocked he became. He also understood why these people from other places were brought to him. I've already heard about you from Elder Yen. However, you shouldn't be passing by here, right? The old man walked in with a smile and sat down at the main seat. He looked at Fengzhou and the others. Chapter 42-46. Every place in the Nightless Club was like this, not just here. Therefore, the word she asked before naturally exposed this point. The city lord, or even the person called Elder Yen, knew that they did not come from any place in the Nightless Club, but the so-called outsiders from other worlds. Thinking of this, the smile on her face deepened. "Where did you come from?" the city lord asked, and his eyes fell on Fengzhou. After looking at her for a while, he noticed that the woman in red was the master of these people. "We were sent here by the spatial transmission array in the Azure Demon Forest," Fengzhou said, but did not mention the ancient nine-tailed fox spirit. For other worlds, the old man just asked. Even if she said it, he might not know. Therefore, he just nodded and said, "It's been a long time since immortal cultivators from other realms have come to our place. I see that you are all very strong, and there are many more people here than us. I think that other realms should be a good place to cultivate." Fengzhou smiled, glanced at Du Fan and the others, and said, "Well, the spirit of the world where we are is richer than here. However, the spirit here is not rich. It's not easy for you to cultivate to this level." The city lord and the middle-aged man were both nascent soul stage cultivators. The former was at the peak, and the latter should have just entered the nascent soul stage not long ago. It was not easy to cultivate to this level in this place where there was not much spirit power. "Since you came here by accident, then before you leave, stay here with me first. If you want to go to the city to look around, this old man can accompany you." He looked at Fengzhou and the others. He did not know how high their strength was, but at least he knew that most of their strength was above him. "Then we'll bother you." Fengzhou did not refuse and said, "We haven't slept for a few days all the way here. We have to trouble the city lord to prepare a room for us. We want to rest. This is no problem." He called out, "Let the butler go down to prepare, and then let someone take them down." After watching them leave with the butler, the old man stood up with his hands clasped behind his back and looked at them with a pensive expression. Seeing this, Gu Mayan said, "City lord, if cultivators from other places can come here, can't we go to other places too?" "Sigh, it's easier said than done." The old man sighed and said, "I know what you mean, but the world we live in is a place where there is no night all year round. There is a lack of spiritual chi, and the highest cultivation is only at the peak of the yuanying stage. Many cultivators have reached the peak of the yuanying stage and died. Even if some wanted to break through to the flying immortal stage, I have never heard of anyone succeeding. The cultivators here are destined to be like this. Elder Yen said anxiously, but, City Lord, look at Miss Feng and the others. They're all so young, yet their cultivations aren't inferior to ours. Since they can come here, why can't we take a gamble? If we can also go to the place where they are, perhaps our cultivation will be able to reach a higher level. Every world has its own people. This is the will of the heavens. Who can win against the heavens? The old man shook his head and sighed before walking out. Chapter 42-47. They slept for 2 days and 2 nights. For the past few days, they had been exposed to the scorching sun. Now that they were in such a cool place, they could sleep peacefully on the bed. Naturally, they slept until they woke up before leaving the room. Knowing that they had not left the room, the city lord instructed the servants not to disturb them. Until 2 days later, when Fengzhou and the rest left the room, the city lord ordered the servants to prepare food for them. Master, do you want to walk around the city today? Du Fan asked, his gaze falling on Fengzhou. Since we have nothing to do, it's good to take a look. Fengzhou said. Seeing that they had eaten their fill, he said, let's go to the front and find Elder Yen. As he said that, he walked out. The city lord and Elder Yen were talking as they walked towards the place where they lived. When they met them on the way, the two of them smiled and went up to greet them. Miss Feng, how was the food? The city lord asked with a smile. The food was very good. We were just full, so we wanted to walk around the city. Fengzhou said with a smile. Hee, that's great. We'll go with you. He smiled and gestured to them, please. Thus, Fengzhou and the rest followed the two of them out of the city lord's residence and walked into the city. City lord. City lord. Why did the city lord come out today? Perhaps it was because the people in the city were familiar with the city lord. He accompanied them around the city and introduced them to the scenery of the city. Many people smiled and greeted him. Feng Jiu and the others were unfamiliar faces, not only because they were outstanding and eye-catching, but also because they were not wearing the same white clothes as the people here. Therefore, one could tell at a glance that they were from other places. They were curious about the people from other places and sized them up. However, because the city lord and Elder Yen were accompanying them, they did not dare to be too presumptuous. Fengzhou looked around and said with a smile, the city lord must be a rare and good city lord to be loved by the people here. Only those who served the people could win the hearts of the people. Although he was the city lord, he did not put on any airs. It could be seen that the people here were very supportive of him. I'm just doing something for the citizens. I'm not a good city lord. The city lord modestly waved his hand and smiled. Elder Yen said, Miss Feng, you might not know this, but our nightless city is an isolated city. It's not easy to get goods, especially this kind of black cloth. It's even harder to find. The city lord formed a team to go out of the city every month and walk hundreds of miles to other cities to buy goods and trade. He even taught the people in the city to dye their own black cloth to block the sun. The city lord has done a lot for us, and the people in the city respect him very much. Fengzhou was slightly surprised. Oh. Does this place leave the city once a month? Yes, it's a long journey. It takes a few days to come and go. The city lord said to Fengzhou, Miss Feng, let's go to the front and have a cup of tea. Okay. Fengjiu responded and walked with them to the tea stall not far in front. There was a black net above the city to block the heat. The city was much cooler than outside the city. In addition, they had been here for a few days and gradually adapted to the heat here. Sitting at the tea stall, Fengjiu asked, "City Lord, why does the sun of the Nightless Club not set in the west? Do you know the reason?" Chapter 42-48. The city lord took a sip of tea, paused for a moment, and said, "Tens of thousands of years ago, our world also had a master. However, according to legend, after the war with another monarch, the monarch of our world fell, and our world became a land without a master. That monarch did not recover this world, but set up a curse to let the people of our world live in the abyss of suffering for generations." Speaking of this, he sighed softly. "This is the hatred between the two monarchs, but it has affected the innocent us. From then on, there is no night in our world, no starry sky. For a long time, the weather here has been hot, and the water source is getting less and less." He looked at the teacup in his hand, looked at the tea in the cup, and said, "Maybe in less than a few hundred years, the people of our world will all die and become a land of death." Fengjiu was silent, and she did not expect it to be such a reason. However, was it cursed by the monarch of the world? It could make the sun never set in the west. This made her somewhat puzzled. After all, even if the monarch of the world was a monarch, it was impossible to make the sun never set because of a curse, as he said. "As far as I know, even the monarch of the world can't interfere with the operation of the sun, the moon, and the stars, right?" Du Fan's voice came from the table next to her. "Yes, therefore, some powerhouses of the Nightless Club have discussed this problem, but there has been no answer. Here, for tens of thousands of years, the highest cultivation is the peak Yuanying stage cultivator. Perhaps it is because the spiritual power of this world is lacking, or it is because of other reasons, there has never been a cultivator above the Yuanying stage." The city lord sighed softly and said, "Our strength is limited. Even if we want to break this curse, we can't start. Moreover, you came from other worlds, so you don't know that there is a Qilin mountain here. It is said that there is an ancient Qilin beast trapped there. That Qilin beast was the contract beast of the monarch of our world tens of thousands of years ago. Every once in a while, the powerhouses of the peak Yuanying stage will form a team to go to the Qilin mountain to find the Qilin beast, but they have been unable to find the location of the Qilin beast." Listening to this, Fengjiu's heart moved slightly, and there was a strange color in her eyes. Ancient Qilin beast. There was actually an ancient Qilin beast in this place. She narrowed her eyes and took a sip of tea, suppressing the excitement in her heart. At first, she thought that little Yu Er's contracted beast had been found, but she didn't know where to find little Mu Chen's contracted beast. She didn't expect that an ancient Qilin beast would be trapped in this place. Du Fan and the others were also slightly surprised. They looked at each other and then at Fengjiu. They saw that she was holding a teacup and seemed to be thinking about something. They remained silent and did not disturb her. "How far is the Qilin mountain from here?" Fengjiu put down his teacup and looked up at the city lord. Hearing this, the city lord was slightly stunned. He looked at Fengjiu and said, "It's at least 7 to 8 days' journey from here, and that's the speed of sword flight." As he spoke, he continued, "A few days ago, I received an invitation from several nascent soul cultivators to go to the Qilin mountain to search for the ancient Qilin. Since you return empty-handed every year, why do you still want to go every year?" Yi Feifei asked curiously. Chapter 42-49. He looked at them and said, "Many cultivators have fallen in the Yuanying realm, and we just want to find a way to survive before that. Maybe, if we find the ancient Qilin beast, we can also find a way to break the curse." Yi Fei seemed to understand, but didn't ask again. When did you guys agree to go to the Qilin Mountain? We also want to go with you, Fengzhou said, looking at the city lord. After hearing her words, the city lord smiled. Actually, even if Miss Feng didn't say it, I also wanted to invite you guys to go together. I can see that your cultivation is above ours. Maybe if you guys go together, you can find the Qilin beast. Fengzhou smiled and didn't say anything. After I arrange the things in the city, it will take about 2 or 3 days. We can set off to meet the others. This time, the team in the city is going out of the city, so we can go together. The city lord looked at Fengzhou and the others and said with a smile, have a good rest these few days and recover your energy. Thus, they made a decision. After a few days, they would go out of the city to the Qilin Mountain. This was an unexpected surprise for Fengzhou and the others. No one expected that there would be a trapped ancient Qilin beast. After returning to the city lord's mansion, Du Fan and the others went to Fengzhou's courtyard. Master, it seems that the unseen world has already planned this. The ancient Qilin beast has disappeared for tens of thousands of years, but we didn't expect to meet it this time. Du Fan couldn't hide the joy in his voice. He was happy that the little Master Mu Chen's contract beast was found. Ever since he knew that his 2 little masters were doomed, he had been worried. Now, the ancient nine-tailed fox was in his master's space, and now he knew that the ancient Qilin beast was trapped in this world. He believed that the 2 little masters would be able to turn misfortune into blessing and grow up safely. I haven't seen it yet. After all, rumors are just rumors. Seeing is believing. Fengzhou said, looking at the others, these 2 days, you should prepare well. In addition, Du Fan, there is a place to hide in the city lord's mansion. You go and tell the city lord to check the information about the curse. Yes. Du Fan said, I'll go now. Then he turned and walked out. Feng Nine looked at Wang Yu and said, Wang Yu, you are not my subordinate. You shouldn't have been with me for so long. Now you have been with me for more than half a year. I believe you have seen a lot of things, but I want to remind you that there are some things that you should forget after you know them. There are some words that you'd better not say after you hear them. Hearing this, Wang Yu's heart shuddered, and she immediately said, Don't worry, Ghost Doctor. I, Wang Yu, will never say anything more. Then, as if he was afraid that she would be worried, he pointed to the sky and swore, Wang Yu, swear that I will never inquire about things that I shouldn't know. I will never say anything that I shouldn't say. If I dare to talk nonsense, I will be struck by thunder. As soon as the voice fell, the spiritual power spread out. There was a sound of thunder in the sky, and then it disappeared. Okay, you can leave. Fengzhou motioned him to leave first. Yes. Wang Yu responded. Then she saluted and turned away. After all, my daughter is still young. If you act like this, you will scare her. I don't want to be a contract beast for a human. I will not form a contract with a human. Don't think you can make me submit. The nine-tailed fox shouted angrily. It struggled, but it could not do anything to Fengzhou. Chapter 42-51. Hearing this, the little fox widened its eyes in shock. I am an ancient nine-tailed fox spirit. I am not an ordinary fox. Fengzhou's eyes flashed. She glanced at it and said coldly, if you weren't an ancient nine-tailed fox spirit, do you think you would have survived until now? The little fox saw the cold light in her eyes and her threatening words. For a moment, its blue eyes were filled with grievance and fear. It said in a trembling voice, You humans are really bad. Since you know that, you'd better control your temper. Otherwise, you're going to suffer. As Fengjiu spoke, she glanced at it and said, "You are the contract beast that I prepared for my daughter, but I really don't feel at ease with your character. Now, I will take you with me and temper you. When I go back in the future, I will cancel the contract with you and let you re-establish a life contract with my daughter." Before the little fox could object, she made an ancient seal with her hands and softly chanted the contract language. Spiritual energy surged and ancient contract runes appeared under the feet of the human and beast. As the runes under Fengjiu's feet disappeared, they turned into a ray of light and entered the little fox's forehead to complete the contract. The little fox wanted to resist, but its spiritual energy was firmly suppressed. In the end, after the contract was completed, Fengjiu waved her hand and put away the silver net that trapped the little fox. She said, "You can move freely in here, but don't touch anything, especially those spiritual herbs and the golden lotus in the spirit spring. If you touch anything, be careful of your fox skin." Hearing this, the little fox shrank and lay on the ground, not daring to look at her. Now that it was contracted to her as a servant beast, as long as she wanted, it could not do anything even if she skinned it alive. Seeing that the threat was effective, Fengjiu's expression softened. She said, "Of course, if you are obedient, the benefits you will get will be much better than cultivating in the Cyan Demon Forest. Just look at the contracted beasts in my space and you will know. None of them are weaker than you." The little fox looked at the two cloud-swallowing beasts, Lao Bai, and the white tiger, then lowered its head in dejection. This human was a freak, her space was also a freak. Even the contract beasts inside the space weren't ordinary. The contracted beasts looked at each other and thought to themselves, "Master is still the best." "Alright, now tell me, when will your teleportation ability recover?" Fengjiu asked. The little fox raised its head and looked at her with a pair of blue eyes. It asked, "How do you know I have the ability to travel through space?" After asking the question, a trace of annoyance appeared in its eyes. Wasn't it asking for nothing? How could they not know that he had brought them to this place? One of the hidden abilities of the ancient nine-tailed fox is to travel through space. Fengjiu glanced at it and said slowly, "When will it recover?" The little fox sprawled on the ground listlessly. Her eyes flashed as she whispered, "I don't know. I'm still in my infancy and I'm not even sure of my own abilities. I don't know when I'll be able to recover." Chapter 42-52. After instructing Lao Bai and the others to keep an eye on it, Fengjiu flashed out of the space. In the room, she took out her communication jade and told Xianyuan Mose about what had happened. Then, she asked about the two children's current situation and waited for his reply. In the distant mansion, Xianyuan Mose held his communication jade and listened to Fengjiu talk about what had happened over there and the discovery of the ancient mythological Qilan beast. A trace of a smile flashed through his eyes and he beckoned to the two children who were playing. "Mu Chen, come here. Daddy, Daddy, brother snatched my Chuchu." The little one ran over with her short legs and threw herself into Xianyuan Mose's arms. Her pink little mouth pouted as she complained to Xianyuan Mose in a childish voice. On the other side, Mu Chen, who was wearing a white robe, stood there with a rattan ball in his hand. When he heard little complaining to her father, he also walked forward and handed the rattan ball to her. "For you." Xianyuan Mose looked at the small handprint on his son's white robe and then at his son's sullen face as he handed the rattan ball to his daughter. He reached out and rubbed his head. "You're the older brother, so you have to give in to your younger sister. Alright, you can play with the ball for a while, but you can't play with it for too long. Your mother sent you a message, do you want to hear her voice?" When the two children heard this, their eyes immediately lit up. They squeezed into his arms and grabbed his robe. Daddy, Daddy, where is mother? Where is mother? Fengjiu had been gone for 7 to 8 months, and the two children were already more than 2 years old. Gradually, they couldn't remember Fengjiu's appearance, but they still remembered that their mother gave them a sense of security and warmth. Daddy said that their mother had gone to help them find a contracted beast and would bring it back to play with them. They had been waiting and hoping that their mother would come back soon. Mother hasn't returned yet, but she caught a little fox for you, The corners of Xianyuan lips curled up slightly. Looking at the two soft children's delicate faces and the portrait of their eyebrows, he also missed Fengjiu very much. Mother, did you catch the little fox for you, If mother catches the little fox, will the little fox miss its mother? Daddy, you, misses mommy. Does little fox miss mommy too? The little girl's delicate face scrunched up as she asked in a childish voice, Daddy, you, misses mommy. Hearing this, Xianyuan's eyes softened. He reached out and carried you, to sit on his lap. No, because little fox doesn't have a mother. Doesn't little fox have a mother? Why didn't the little fox have a mother? Then can you, be little fox's mother? The little fellow blinked her pair of watery eyes as she looked at Xianyuan. Her eyes were filled with curiosity and puzzlement. Hearing so many whys, Xianyuan shook his head and smiled helplessly. When talking to children, sometimes one topic could lead to many topics. And the question they asked the most was why. When little Mukin heard that his mother had already caught the little fox for his sister, he couldn't help but reach his little hand out to tug at the corner of Xianyuan's shirt. Daddy, did mother catch the little beast for me? He asked. Chapter 42-53. The two little guys quietly leaned in Xianyuan's arms and listened to the voice coming from the jade pendant. It was their mother's voice. When they were young, their mother often coaxed them to sleep. That voice was very familiar and made them feel at ease. Little Mu Chen's eyes lit up when he heard that his mother had found the ancient mythical Qilin beast. Because his mother said that she was going to catch it for him, she was now helping him catch the Qilin beast. After the light from the communication jade pendant faded, Xianyuan looked at the two and asked, Do you want to talk to your mother? Yes, yes. The two little guys nodded heavily, their faces full of hope. Seeing this, he took out 2 communication jade pendants and handed them to them. This communication jade pendant belongs to your mother. I'll give each of you one. Keep it well. In the future, as long as you hold this communication jade pendant in your palm and speak to it, your mother will know. Under the surprised gazes of the two little fellows, he placed 2 communication jades in their little hands and said, However, your mother's family is out there, and she might be in danger sometimes. So, don't send messages to her with the communication jades so that she won't be distracted. Yes, yes. Daddy, we know. The two little guys clenched the jade pendant in their hands and hurriedly agreed. All right, you've played for quite a while today. Let me test you on how well you've memorized the mantra. Who wants to go first? Xianyuan asked as his gaze fell upon the two children. Little Yu blinked her big eyes and looked at Mu Qin, then at her father. Finally, she said crisply, Brother goes first. Thus, Mu Qin withdrew from Xianyuan's arms. Just as he was about to recite the mental cultivation method, he heard his father's voice. Wait. As Xianyuan spoke, he looked at the little one in his arms and said, You, go down. Stand there and don't move. Oh. The little one responded and obediently went down to stand. Xianyuan stretched out his hand and set up a soundproof enchantment. When he saw the little one staring at him with her eyes and mouth wide open, he smiled and said, Stand still. It will be your turn soon. Lang Hua and Qin Xin, who had been standing quietly in a corner, exchanged glances with each other and smiled faintly at the sight of this. The two little masters had two different personalities. Little Mu Qin was like a little adult while little Yu was like a mischievous ghost. These two children played together all day long and they were extremely fond of them. Listening to little Mu Qin reciting the cultivation chant in his soft and gentle voice, little Yu, who was inside the soundproof barrier, started to become somewhat anxious. The two of them didn't feel that it was funny. With just one look, he knew that little Yu, definitely hadn't studied properly. He reckoned that she still hadn't memorized the mnemonic chant. Sure enough, when it was her turn, she recited intermittently and missed a lot. He couldn't help but sweat for her. After a long time, the child's soft and gentle voice finally stopped. At this time, the courtyard was quiet and there wasn't the slightest sound. Finish reciting. After a long time, Xianyuan asked. I finished reciting. Little Yu lowered her head and softly answered. Then tell me, between you and Mu Qin, who recited it better? Xianyuan asked again. Little Yu raised her head and looked at her brother. She whispered, brother recited it better than you, Then tell me, why did he recite it better than you? Xianyuan asked again. Chapter 42-54. The little one hung her head and pouted her bright red lips as she played with her fingers. From time to time, she would sneak a peek at her father. Seeing him looking at her with a calm face, she couldn't help but bite her lips. Then she looked at Lang Hua and Qin Xan who were standing in the corner. Seeing that they didn't step forward to speak up for her, her eyes couldn't help but redden. Her head hung even lower and her soft voice carried a trace of sobbing as she said, because you, was playful and didn't complete Daddy's task. Xianyuan didn't coax her. He only looked at her and said, raise your head and look at Daddy. Little Yu blinked her eyes. At the same time she raised her head, her tears also fell. She pitifully looked at her father. Did Daddy hit you? Xianyuan asked. The little one shook his head. Then did Daddy scold you? He asked again. The little one still shook his head. Since Father didn't hit you or scold you, and you didn't finish the chants that Father made you memorize because you wanted to play, then why are you crying? Xianyuan asked as his gaze fell on her little face. Hearing these words, little Yu thought for a bit and reached out to wipe her tears. She said, Daddy, you was wrong. You will change. You will obediently memorize the chant in the future and won't be playful or cry anymore. Shin will also be obedient and listen to Daddy's words. He won't cry anymore. The little one at the side also said. Hearing this, Xianyuan expression relaxed. He nodded and stretched out his hand towards them. When the two children saw this, they immediately rushed forward and threw themselves into his embrace. They softly called out, Daddy. Xianyuan held the two children's hands and looked at them with a serious expression. He said, you're still young and don't understand many things. But you must know that Daddy and Mommy won't harm you. Daddy and Mommy are very powerful people and we also have a lot of enemies. You're our children so you must cultivate well. Only this way, in the future, even if Daddy and Mommy aren't by your side, you'll be able to protect yourselves. Do you understand? The two children nodded as if they understood and looked at each other. Go. You can only go play after you memorize the chants today. Xianyuan glanced at Lang Hua. Lang Hua stepped forward and said to the two children, let's go. I'll take you out. The two children glanced at their father before following Lang Hua outside. Seeing Xianyuan Mo sitting there, Qin Axayan went forward to make him a pot of hot tea, and then quietly left. Outside, Yu who was leaving with Lang Hua, looked up at Lang Hua and asked, "Uncle Hua, when will you grow up?" Hearing this, Lang Hua gently smiled. "Yu do you want to grow up?" Yu wants to grow up quickly. When Yu grows up, Yu can also be as powerful as father and mother," she said in a childish voice, as if she had already forgotten that she was crying earlier. "Stupid." Little Mukin glanced at her and said, "If you don't memorize the chant properly, you won't be powerful when you grow up." He said, looked at Lang Hua and asked, "Uncle Hua, when will you teach us how to use spiritual power?" "Daddy said that we need to use spiritual power to activate the communication jade, but I don't know how to use it." Chapter 42-55. When they were still in Master's stomach, they had already absorbed the pure spiritual power in Master's body and formed innate spiritual power. In the future, as long as they cultivated, it would naturally be twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, he was not in a hurry to teach them cultivation. After all, no matter how intelligent they were still only 2-year-old children. "Uncle Hua, then how do I use the communication jade token to talk to mother?" Little Mu Chin asked. He got his mother's communication jade token from his father, so he naturally hoped to use it. Lang Hua smiled and said, "This is simple. I'll teach you how to use it later." When the two little guys heard this, their eyes suddenly lit up. With a happy face, they followed him to the study to memorize the incantation. At night, little Mu Chin lay on the bed covered with a quilt and looked at the communication jade token in his hand. He held the communication jade token tightly in his hand according to the method Lang Hua taught him. After guiding the spiritual power in his body to stimulate the jade token, he saw the jade token emit a soft light. The little guy was happy and a big smile appeared on his face. He nervously swallowed his saliva and carefully called out, "Mother. Mother, I'm Chin. Mother, do you still remember Chin? Today, Father gave me and little sister a communication jade token each. In the future, when Chen misses mother, Chen can talk to mother. Mother, Chen is very obedient." Father asked Chen and little sister to memorize the incantation. Chen has memorized it. As he spoke, he thought for a while and his soft voice was filled with longing. Chen hasn't seen mother for a long time. Chen misses mother very much. Mother, when will you come back? He loosened his hand and felt the spiritual power withdraw. The light on the communication jade also dissipated. He lay on the bed and didn't move. He just looked like that. He wondered if mother would reply to him in a while. "Brother, brother." Little Yu's childish voice came from outside the room. Before little Mu Chin could react, the door was pushed open and the little one trotted in with his little feet and headed towards the big bed in the inner room. "Brother, brother, why didn't my communication jade token light up? If it doesn't light up, does that mean mother can't hear you? Brother, brother, what should I do? What should I do? Yu wants to speak with mother." The little person was lying on the edge of the bed, pulling at the quilt on the bed. He wanted to pull the quilt and climb up, but he was short and his legs were short. He did not have enough strength. Mu Chin sat up and said, "Take off your boots." "Oh." Little Yu responded and looked left and right. She then moved a small stool to the side and used it as a stepping pad. After taking off her small boots, she climbed up on all fours. Mu Chin lifted the blanket and gestured for her to come in. Thus, the two children lay on the bed and chatted with the jade tablet. Outside, Bai Qingqing appeared out of nowhere. She glanced at the room and quietly closed the door for the two children. "Big brother, did you talk to mother?" Little Yu asked curiously when she saw the communication jade tablet in his hand. "Yes, I did." Mu Chen nodded in response. When she heard this, her eyes lit up and she quickly asked, "Really? Did mother talk to you? What did mother say?" "Mother hasn't replied yet," Mu Chen said and looked at the communication jade tablet in his hand. Brother, teach me how to use it. I also want to talk to mother." Yu pulled on his sleeve and said. Chapter 42-56. At the same time, in the Nightless Club, Fengjiu was resting in her room. When she heard the message sent by Xianyuan Mose through the communication jade tablet, her eyes couldn't help but soften. The two kids missed her so much. When she heard Mose say that he had reprimanded Yu today, she couldn't help but chuckle. Compared to her, he loved his daughter more, but she didn't expect that he would reprimand her. Originally, she thought that since he doted on his daughter so much, she didn't know what kind of unruly character she would become in the future. But now, it seemed that it wouldn't happen. As for, in her opinion, he taught her well. Feeling that the communication jade tablet was moving, she was slightly surprised. When she took it out to listen, she didn't expect that it was a soft and childish voice. It's Chen Er's voice. Her heart was sour, and she clenched the communication jade tablet in her hand. When she left, they were just babbling, and now they were talking so much. When she heard her son's voice from the communication jade tablet, her eyes couldn't help but become misty. How could she not miss them? But now, she couldn't return to their side because she hadn't finished her task. So, she used the communication jade to send a message back to them. On the other side, Mu Chen, who was sitting at the head of the bed, looked at his sister. He saw that she had tried many times but failed to light up the communication jade tablet with her spiritual power. From time to time, he would tell her what to do. At the same time, he looked at the communication jade tablet in his hand, waiting for his mother to reply to him. "Brother, you can't light it up," the little one said somewhat discouraged. "You can try again. If it really doesn't work, I can help you and let you talk to mother," little Mu Chen said. When his voice fell, the communication jade tablet in his hand emitted a gentle light. He was pleasantly surprised and said, "Sister, look." "Mother replied to me." Seeing this, little Yu hurriedly went forward and said, Brother, quickly listen to what mother said." Bai Qingqing, who was guarding outside the room, heard the words inside and smiled. She raised her head to look at the starry night and couldn't help but think of her younger brother in another continent. Back then, she had brought her younger brother to seek refuge with her master. She had stayed by her master's side while her younger brother had been assigned to work in her master's business. After so many years, they had been apart more than together. In the room, the two little guys were carefully listening to the voice from the communication jade. Mother knows that Chen is the most obedient. Mother also misses you and you It's just that mother has to help you catch contract beasts and can't go back now. However, it won't be long before mother can go home to accompany you. Shen is the older brother, so you have to take care of your younger sister. Mother has brought you a lot of gifts, so you must listen to your father and wait for mother to come home. Yes, Chen will definitely be obedient. Chen will also take care of little sister. Little Mu Chen said as he held the jade token in his hand. Upon seeing this, little Yu who was at the side, promptly said, "Yu will also be obedient. Yu will also take care of big brother." Little Mu Chen, who was next to her, heard this and glanced at her. He obviously did not believe her words. He put away the communication jade tablet and said, "Father said that I can't use it too often so that mother won't be distracted. Let's sleep." You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.